undersigned are men without a country, outlaws in our own land and homeless outcasts in any other. Desperate men, we go to seek a desperate fortune. Therefore, we do here and now band ourselves into a brotherhood of buccaneers to practice the trade of piracy on the high seas. We, the hunted, will now hunt. Therefore, to that end, we enter into the following articles of agreement. First, we pledge ourselves to be bound together as brothers in a life and death friendship, sharing alike in fortune and in trouble. Second article. All monies and valuables which may come into our possession shall be lumped together into a common fund. And from this fund shall first be taken the money to fit, rig, and provision the ship. After that, the recompense each shall receive who is wounded as follows. For the loss of a right arm, 600 pieces of 8. Left arm, 500. For the loss of a right leg, 500. Left leg, 400.
A fellow can get rich if he's lucky.
Greedy, greedy.
If a man conceal any treasure captured or fail to place it in the general fund, he shall be marooned, set ashore on a deserted isle, and there left with a bottle of water, a loaf of bread, and a pistol with one load. If a man shall be drunk on duty, he shall receive the same fate. And if a man shall molest a woman captive against her will, he too shall receive the same punishment. These articles entered into this 20th day of June in the year 1687. Now, men, you've heard the agreement. It's the world against us and us against the world.
His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. Genesis, 16th chapter, 12th verse.
Those of you in favor of these articles, raise your right hands and say aye! Aye!
Welcome, everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to this week's edition of Pirate Radio Podcasts, episode number 178. I am your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. This week, we have for you a special edition. It is a simulcast feature with none other than New Zealand's live streaming mega sensation, Vinny Eastwood. It's great to connect with him here once again. We actually, last year, regular listeners will recall, did manage to put something together with him in the first hour of one of our news segments. So this is a little different approach and format. So we're going to really get into it this go-round over the course of the next approximate 90 minutes or so. That's the way we do things here, of course. And let's not forget, this is our first April live stream as far as the Friday night feature shows are concerned. So who better to have join us here aboard the Robin Hood than Vinny the Gag Man Eastwood? You know, he's got there he is right there. So hey, Vinny, great you could make it. You know, you've got a couple great slogans, catchphrases, turns of phrase, I guess is the expression. regarding your show and just your approach, your philosophy. So welcome back. What is it now? It's how do you got? I was hoping to have it written down here. Actually, that's a bit of an oversight on my end, unfortunately. But as far as in a world filled with the scumbaggery as it is, that nothing more to laugh at things as we kind of circle the drain, basically. How do you put it again? You've got a really great way of laying it out there. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show.
There you go.
The lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes.
Excellent. Yeah. And, that couldn't be any more timely, of course, than and appropriate.
Now wash your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Given the place and time and history where we find ourselves currently. So I don't know really where you want to get into things here. But of course, just to remind listeners, we are simulcasting. How are things looking on your end there, Vinny? Everything tip top and ship shape?
Well, one can only hope. I mean, let's have a look at the chat rooms and what have you that we've got over here. And also, I'll share my screen with you so you can see the chatters and everything that we've got going on over here. It is 27 people watching on the backup channel and 52 people watching on the mainstream with the number of chatters in the rooms and what have you. So, yeah, we're off to a good start.
Excellent. Well, we use the Restream platform, so we're able to actually target and hit Facebook along with YouTube and DLIVE as well too. Let's not forget. Looks like I'm guessing at least a dozen as far as those three outlets are concerned. Yeah, where do you now? We've got, who's it? Dana Shiver. She's right off the bat here saying this is awesome. So excellent. And I'm not sure if you heard the introduction or not. That was
I did, and my audience heard it too. We streamed that live.
How about that? Way to go. So yeah, you've really got a handle on things there in a big way. Well, that's great. And thank you for having me back and for doing this. Taking this approach, the simulcast way of doing things here, this go around, I'm, couldn't be any happier, of course. And once again, you had basically, well, we'd been friends on Facebook for a while, but just really hadn't connected until this past year. And there was that Operation Secret Santa campaign that we had in place. We were hoping to bring you on board in some capacity there, but you were just, and I was really sympathetic, of course, too, because I know the kind of work that you put into your show, and now with your you have a little, baby that's been born into the world, from what I understand. So there's so much pressure and only so much time in the course of each day that I know what it's like to want to have to take a break from time to time.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a talk radio show host who doesn't pretend to care, you actually care. Everybody's got a limited amount of empathy, that kind of thing. And if you allow those reserves to go dry and don't give any time off for yourself to recoup them, kind of thing, you just basically turn into a bad person. And I don't want that to happen to me.
Okay, just taking a look at what we're getting here as far as the feedback from the peanut gallery is concerned. I'm not sure. Things look good here. There's some. Dana is talking about how the audio seems to be barely coming through on her end, but everything looks good from what we're seeing here. So it's just something that sometimes, for whatever reason, things do. Basically everything craps the bed, and we have to scramble to do what we can to to get a handle on things essentially.
Well, if
So
everybody in my chat room can let us know if the sound's coming through all right, and hopefully that'll solve the problem. We've got 5 watching on your stream now.
off of YouTube, that's right. So and I'll have to drop by DLIVE here in just a moment, along with Facebook, so see what we have in place there. But I just saw, actually, it's interesting, a picture of you and David Icke there. That's great. When was that taken exactly?
Let me see. I think it might have been about 2011, 2012, something around there. I'd been helping them to find venues and things like that when they came here, and managed to weasel my way into getting a background gig, sort of like speaking after David Icke had already spoken, because obviously after listening to David Icke for 10 hours, what you really want to do is just sit there and listen to more people talk.
Yeah.
So wasn't the most well received kind of thing, but and everything. But we got the picture with David, and that's ideal.
It's kind of like the way when you have musicians and bands performing, of course, that you never want to follow up after somebody has just blown the room away, or if you do, you better put on a better show than what they just did, kind of deal, which all about, because you yourself being a musician, and this is one of the areas I was hoping to get into with you this week, that with your indie music, of course, too, and the showcase that we have been periodically producing here on this end of things. We have got, actually next week is where we've got it slotted into the schedule, so that's what people are going to be hearing this same time next week, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 out on the East Coast, and here in the Tokyo and Seoul time zones, of course, that's 12 p.m. noon. Out there where you are in New Zealand, I guess you're about 4 hours ahead of us. Is that not the case?
Roughly, it's just past 4 o'clock at the moment.
How about
4 p.m.
Wow, how about that? So, what is the latest then? Because I was once again wanting to get into this with you as far as your music is concerned. I've seen a video or two of you performing with your group. How are things looking on that front? And if you have a Minds, I think we talked about Minds last time around. You weren't overly enthralled with what they had to offer, from what I recall. But all you need to qualify for us to basically bring you on board is have a Minds channel in place and get some decent independent underground music to us that we can, share with the listening world, of course. So you've got a CD or two kicking around, don't you?
No, not yet. But just yesterday we were working on editing our first proper band music video. So that's we've put so much work into it. It's been nearly 2 years in the making of that song, Luftwaffe Aloft. But we're about maybe 70% done with the final edit, which is really good. It's actually starting to see the thing coming together. And we've got a YouTube and Facebook, and on my homepage of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, there's a little banner there for Vinny and the Vendettas. We're on SoundCloud, so that's just Vinny and the Vendettas. That Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question, and Eastwood, go ahead, make my news. Now, we could theoretically actually play a song here for you, and you could see the what we've got in terms of the roll here. Let me see. I'll just have to change the audio settings so that you'll actually be able to hear it while you're across the Skype there. And I'm not sure how well that's coming across to your stream there. So what I've done is I've popped my live stream link into your home stream there, so that if people aren't enjoying the sound on that side, they can come over here, because the sound is great. Now, let's see. Vinny and the Vendettas. I believe I had it in desktop video temp. There we are. We'll just open that with the VLC. We should be able to Okay, so we can play that now. Let's get that on the Skype then, eh? Audio video settings. Microphone, there we go. Okay, we'll just play this for you and hope it works.
Luftwaffe aloft. All right. How about that? So, is that the title cut? Luftwaffe aloft. Can't hear you, Vinny.
That's the one.
There we go. You're coming through now. Yeah,
That's
sure.
All right, yeah, so there we go.
So that is the title cut then, is it, from your upcoming album, CD release?
Oh, this is what we're trying to get turned into a music video. And I'm not sure if we've totally finished editing the music version, but it's pretty good. Pretty good.
I liked it. I got a big kick out of it, of course.
Yeah.
Free Cosmos jumping in here. I'm not sure what he's if he's just a bit of a jest here or not, but plainly stating, in his opinion, that music sucks. So, all right. Well, all opinions are welcome, of course, including those of Free Cosmos and all others. And typically, as we do like to say here, Vinny, too, that the views and opinions expressed on behalf of myself, the show's host, as well as our guests, do not necessarily reflect those of either the wider listening audience nor the show's sponsors. So, standard disclaimer.
My pencil says, I dig it.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Was that your wife? That had to be...
Richard Savell says, nice video, Vinny. No. The hot girl was not my wife. The hairy German woman in the shower, that was my wife.
Oh, jeez. I never saw that. Did not see that chick, but...
Oh, and that's what's problematic as well when you're dealing with one second here. I'm just going to get my webcam back on. That's one thing that you're dealing with when you're looking across the Skype in a screen share, is it's all cutty and blotchy, that kind of thing. But for the people across the live stream, on the other hand, it seems to be working good. Speaking of working good, the sound on your stream is working good now.
Yeah. We just had to amp you up a little bit, a little more gain, and there we go. It seems like people listening are relatively satisfied, so that's what we like to that's what we aim to achieve here, of course, as best we can. And quite honestly, as you're probably well aware, we are an independent, open source, alternative underground media and pirate project, of course. So one of the things, I guess, just off the top of my head here, that I guess on that note I could ask you about is, you've heard a little bit about the pirate political parties around the world, Iceland in particular, I guess. They came in second nationally there over in Iceland a couple of years ago. So wouldn't that be something, though, Vinny, if we were to see this, as with the Yellow Vest movement, perhaps pick up a little more momentum? Although what I've heard is that the pirate political movement, as it were now, and in air quotes, that overly infiltrated by too much in the way of politically correct type influences, shall we say, as far as the steering and shaping of the platform and what they're willing to put up and tolerate.
Well, speaking of
your video, let me just say in closing, Vinny, that your video, they would have, I'm sure, the pirate, all too many, my impression, what I've heard is like all too many of these pirate party people out there would have, that would have triggered them in a big way, I'm sure. So, yeah. Which is exactly what you're trying to do. I get that's part of it, I guess, right? Because it's kind of a parody.
How it started was we were just sitting around having a few drinks, and I was just going to the guys. Do you know how certain words sound really funny together? If you say one after the other together, they sound kind of funny, like Luftwaffe aloft. And we had a good laugh, and then we started coming up with a dun 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 Luftwaffe.
Good old power chords, sure, that's right.
And we performed it. We wrote it down on a piece of paper in Ian, our bassist's basement, and then just sort of like practiced it in there, and we got round to recording it at a guy named Tristan's place. He's got a great studio there. And then we mixed it ourselves and making the video ourselves. So it's tough to do in a lockdown, but fortunately we can still Skype and do editing and that kind of thing. And the guys have only just seen the video itself properly, because when you're doing it across Skype, obviously it's a bit jumbled and jumpy and freezy. But we make do of what we can. And it's just for a bit of fun, and a lot of times we're talking about things that are incredibly serious and incredibly dangerous and scary and what have you. But we don't take much time to think about, how can we actually make this a more fun time whilst we're getting exterminated, and the music and that kind of thing. We're definitely good for a laugh.
Well, that was the effect it had on me. There's some out there, I think, as I said, Free Cosmos, it seemed to have rubbed him the wrong way. He didn't quite get it, as it were. But
Well, don't worry, it happens to males. 1 in 5 apparently get affected by it.
you can't please everybody. Hey, oh geez, so there's a couple.
Speaking of which, you can't please everybody. I just got a $10 super chat in here from Steve G, and he says, "Don't give up your day job."
Steve G, yeah, I'm not sure if he's is he a long-term listener, and if people are that's Pirate Joe. If people are wondering, jumping in, go ahead, Pirate Joe. You had something you were going to add. What's the deal?
I didn't particularly care for it either, but I have different tastes.
Yeah,
in music,
and that's and that's why we have you on. That's why you're down in the in sick bay there, and we have you on mute.
Well, somebody has to guard the ether and the laudanum.
Exactly. Yeah. He's the Bonesaw, I guess, is one of the nicknames that we have for him.
Yeah.
Professor Joe. Yes, indeed. So he's out of Long Island, New York. Quite a character. Really somebody that I would say, if you're looking for colorful personalities, people to interview at some point, Vinny, he would be definitely somebody I would take a close look at. He's got a lot to offer. I know you don't. The UFO business, you see, it's not something you cover in a big way, nor do we particularly. But there's this one gentleman who's been in detention now for almost a quarter of a century, and it's a very incredible case, frankly. But as you look into it, I think most rational people will ultimately discover and conclude that he was completely railroaded, and it was just extremely politicized, his case, and it still is to this day. We even managed to, and this is one reason why people out there listening don't think that we don't have an impact or an effect on the powers that be. Simply by being here and having a voice, it does lead to, we do manage to produce, as I had laid out here with the show description this week, this go around, it's the corona busting cosmic synergy. That's what we're really working on producing here. Optimal level corona busting cosmic synergy, if we can manage to bring that about. So let's stay focused on that. The point being really more to the heart of the matter, that the Attorney General of New York State, I guess he heard what we were doing as far as providing coverage to John Ford, UFO political prisoner John Ford, and he was not too pleased by the whole matter, as if nobody was supposed to talk about John and just completely forget about the guy, as if he never existed in the first place. And that's what happens when so many of these, really, when it comes right down to it, innocent souls are warehoused. But we're kind of, I digress somewhat. All I will say is that he would make for a great interview, most definitely. So something to keep in mind. And I don't want to get, once again, too sidetracked, because once we let the beast out of the cage, as it were, Professor Joe down there in the ship's sick bay and medical lab, he just it's even goes on. He's quite capable. He's a quite capable speaker, and even carries on longer than what I've done just here, basically. So, but hey, listen, a couple of things. Of course, speaking of corona busting, your state of lockdown there in New Zealand, we'd like to hear a little bit about that, of course. But even before that, you had a bit of an electrical outage a couple of weeks ago, sudden power outage. Which when I heard the news,
it was a scheduled one, so they were replacing a power pole, and they sent us a letter a couple of weeks beforehand, but I just forgot about it. So, and then they sent me a text after they'd already cut the power off, kind of thing. So that was just like one show off that day, kind of thing. So I just sort of made a little video just saying, "All right, everybody, just breathe, calm down. It's all right. We're all going to die." So it's. It could be worse, There could be satanic pedophiles in charge of the world. So New Zealand lockdown. We had about 48 hours notice before we got locked down, and we got locked down for about 4 weeks. Now, there has been some rumour speculating that the Prime Minister, Jizzy Ardern, is going to lift the lockdown as early as Wednesday this coming week, but we will just remain to be seen on that. What we are getting scattered reports of 5G being aggressively installed while everybody's in lockdown. It's been deemed an essential service, and I found it ironic to find out that there's now a list of essential items that you can purchase off of websites, things like heaters or deep fryers or even cell phones and big screen TVs and things like that. These are all deemed essential. But of course, when my wife went to go to the organic shop to get us some essential oils and colloidal silver, the essential oils were deemed non-essential items, so they had run out of them. So it's a little bit of the CIA operation here. It's about confusion, promoting confusion. What is, what isn't, nobody knows. And so whether or not they will lift the ban in the 4 weeks, they are saying, who knows. Whether or not they'll lift it in the Wednesday, as the rumours say, who knows. Whether or not they're going to extend the lockdown longer and longer, because as this has happened, major restaurant brands like McDonald's and things of that nature, who source the vast majority of their foodstuffs, fruit and vegetables and things of that nature from New Zealand, they have, as a result of the lockdown, I think approximately, well, basically everything that's being grown in the country that isn't being sent directly to the supermarkets, all the restaurants around the country, things like that, they're all closed. They get supplied by farmers and what have you, specifically because they've got good stuff. It's all had to be thrown out. All right, and it's all going to waste and rotting and that kind of thing. The supermarkets have raised the prices on a number of items, and it's basically just getting more expensive. Now, they're saying in about 3 months or so after lockdown, approximately 50% of businesses will never recover. And after 18 months of lockdown, it'll only be those who are giving direct government handouts. Now, the government did do a big, massive handout. They go, okay, let's give you something. A friend of mine got $4,000 just because he's staying alone by himself. He's elderly, that kind of thing. And another business that my father-in-law works for, he's still getting paid because their big delivery company has qualified for a subsidy. So it appears to me that the government has decided that they're going to save all the big businesses that are already owned by the New World Order and give them free money on the backs of the population, and all of that population's businesses and home revenue and things of that nature. If they're unable to make any revenue by themselves, they'll just get massively in debt to the government with all of these subsidies, and then go on a universal basic income, and there will be no independent business, no entrepreneurs or anything, and everybody will be working for a major Fortune 500 corporation. So everything will start to become a bit more bland around here, and indeed around the world. So this is the New World Order being set up. It is this book right here, Agenda 21. If you can see that on screen, Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. You can see if you can find copies of that, or at least listen to some of Rosa's things online. She's done a lot of work talking about this subject. So it is the complete and utter control slave grid for the new century, more or less. So everywhere you go, you'll be tracked by 5G. That's why the 5G is going up. Everything you do, you'll be tracked by the 5G. And if you don't do what the government wants you to do, or you jaywalk or something like that, you're going to have a little social credit thing on your phone that's going to go ping. You're naughty, and we're going to deduct some social credit points off of you. The New Zealand government has already talked about introducing social credit, as they are also talking about suspending the election. So we could be theoretically looking at the suspension of democracy, the privatisation in a few corporate hands of all private property, a digital currency system whereby if you don't do what the government wants, etc., you won't get your handout, and or they will simply turn off your cards or your phone or your chips or whatever, and you won't be able to buy food at all. So that's basically it. Unfortunately, all of the back doors are in. All of the thoughts about rebellion and what have you are essentially just dreams at this point. They're loading up, and they're taking us to the cleaners, essentially, and that's going to be our new world order. Steve G asks, why are all these puppets shopping and lining up for miles? What am I missing? And I was thinking just the other day, I was watching Melissa Melton and Aaron Dyke's channel, and they did a special on poop. All right, and it's just like poop is everywhere, you know. It's like the little emojis. There's little frickin' what are they called? Stuffed animal toys that are poop shaped and all of this kind of thing. And they were wondering, what the heck is this? Why is poop everywhere in our society? And it turns out that there's this god. All right, this ancient dark god of fecal matter and that kind of thing. And allegedly, the occultists and part of them, whatever, that are working with the New World Order follow and want to promote this god and to turn human beings basically into crap, you know, so that we're easier to control and we're a lot less, shall we say, honourable and stand upright and that kind of thing. And so that's part of the subtle psychological trip there to get people thinking crap. All right, the toilet paper's gone. Toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper. You know, what's the immediate connection to toilet paper? It's your ass. All right, so everybody's sitting around there, sitting on their ass, getting news, thinking about their ass, and they can't think nothing but shit. I mean, I apologize for the language, but anyway, go ahead. I can still hear you. Are you there?
Sorry about that. I was multitasking and had myself on mute while you unloaded there. So thank you so much. As is, you know, you do a really great job in laying things out for the listeners, of course. One of the things that came to mind and that I was wanting to ask you about within the context of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, is it's, I think, even more recently been rebranded, as it were, is I was going to say the Council on Foreign Relations. That's not quite it. The Club of Rome. I got the C right. So, and their first global revolution. You know, this is potentially what we could be looking at here. Things are being handled a little differently. Well, similarly in some ways, I suppose, but in a more particularly Korean way here, of course, on the peninsula. So we will see, you know, there's definitely a huge mind control agenda at play here, and, you know, considerably with it being driven by fear, as is typically the case. What does the word government mean?
Mind control.
There you go. Exactly. Gubermente. So, as I so often like to say, pose the question, it's like, who governs who? Who governs you? You know, are we going to leave it to some third-party external entity? or agency of some form or another, or are we going to take it upon ourselves to be a more autonomous and cosmic sovereign being? So, which is the word autonomy in itself simply means self-naming. If you break that down etymologically, really, I think helpful to bear in mind, very empowering. And that's one of the things too, is that the language we have to take back and take another look at these little catchphrases as they're known: the war on drugs, the war on terror, anti-Semitism. They're all loaded, and they're quite easily.
What I like is Steve Hughes, the comedian from Australia's take on that, and he goes, "Okay, you're having a war on terror. What does war create? Well, terror, but ours is good terror. Okay, it's sort of a diet. It's sort of a diet terror, sort of terror light. Sort of, I can't believe it's not terror."
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen that guy actually, Steve Hughes. Did you say he's an Aussie?
Yeah.
He's a wild man, isn't he? So it's the long flowing manes. If I got the
he did once upon a time, but he's shaved most of that off now. It's just a clean cut at this point. I managed to have him on my show last year and catch him live when he came here to New Zealand to perform at the International Comedy Festival. It was good. Got to have a drink with him and smoke one of his ciggies. It was awesome.
He's got his own line of cigarettes, does he? His own particular Steve brand funny cigarettes.
No, he just had ciggies and I didn't, so I scabbed one.
All right. So I'll have to go through the archives and check that out. I think that would be a real hoot to see how that all went down, the two of you there. So let's just see what we got taking place out here via the interwebs, comments, and so forth as we motor along here. Episode number 178 of Pirate Radio Podcasts with our special guest of the week, Friday night feature guest for the folks out there back in North America, of course. And as always, we've kicked things off here 12 noon here in the Tokyo and Seoul time zones rather. But yeah, Vinny Eastwood is our he's our guy this week, and we are producing a simulcast as well too. So it's a little tricky to get things off the ground, but I think we did manage more or less to work out some of the kinks there, and everything is looking just peachy.
We're getting shouts out for an encore for Steve Hughes. Got 108 watching in the main channel, 32 on the backup channel, and 7 watching on yours.
Oh God, that's yeah.
Let me just this actually calls for a bit of an explanation. Last 2 months, I said to myself, okay, I've been doing radio, I've been doing Facebook, I've been doing Twitter, I've been doing all of these random things or whatever. What if I just chuck those all to the side? Don't do any archiving, don't do any promotions or anything like that, and just do live streaming as regularly as I can on the YouTube and see what happens. And what happens is the YouTube audience grows massively, really, really fast, and the amount of donations that you get coming up massively fast. Now, they could, of course, just delete my YouTube channel, then I've lost everything. But hey, at this point in time, I thought it was just an experiment, essentially. I was going to try it for a month to see how it went. It went well, so now I'm trying it for a second month. And it's going even better. So sometimes just focusing on the one thing and really trying to crank it is all that needs to happen.
So you're saying just focus on getting the show out there, getting on the mic, and having the regular time, of course, starting time in place, and just just doing your thing, of course, producing it in whatever fashion, whether...
Well, it has to be live, and
right.
you have to interact with your audience as well. Discord chat's also really helpful as well, because there's a lot of lonely people out there, and I'm one of them. When you're walking around and you're talking to people about stuff that they have no education about whatsoever, and they call you a conspiracy theorist, it makes you feel very, very lonely. And so I'm stuck here at home, as I normally am anyway. Like basically the lockdown hasn't changed my lifestyle pretty much at all, other than going to do band practice on the weekends. It's the only thing I've had to give up through this. So just crank it hard. Make sure you're live streaming. People like the video and that kind of thing. And remind people, support the channel. Super chat in. You've got PayPal, KiwiBank, Patreon, all of these kind of things. So that way you get multiple sources of revenue and people interacting at the time, and it becomes sort of like a big sort of family thing,
That's a good point, actually, and something that we should definitely consider. Maybe I could leave it up to our fellow crew members here to take it upon themselves to deal with the promotional end of things, really, as far as the sharing of links and whatnot is concerned. It's really time consuming, as I'm sure you're well aware.
I know. And that's what I'm saying, bro. If you just completely stop promoting and only produce live content regularly, it eclipses the point. There's no point in sharing stuff if you can just do it all live, because then your job's done and you can just relax for the rest of the day. Because live streaming, I did a 6-hour stream the other day, bro. 6 hours straight.
Jeez. Yeah, that's David Icke style for sure. He's one of those marathon kind of characters too.
Yeah. But David Icke just sits there and talks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there and I'm talking with people. I'm answering the
right,
chat rooms and things like that. And when you're a narcissist like me, that gives you energy and allows you to keep doing the show. That kind of thing. So I'm an attention seeker and a narcissist, and I am ashamed of it. But I must admit it, because otherwise, then people were not fairly warned, Well, you have to be invited in.
It's great to have you, Vinny, and it's so we couldn't be any happier and grateful, really, for you to have reached out and connected with us here. Of course, it's something that we've been promoting the whole way. If people drop by WPRPN.com and check out the FAQ page we have in place, they'll see that the focus is all about taking a cooperative approach to building a grassroots populist community, basically. Hashtag WWRHD, what would Robin Hood do? It's one of those, we have that actually on most of the merchandise we have available through our Teespring store. We only pick up a couple dollars every time somebody buys a t-shirt or coffee mug. It does help to cover the costs, of course. But yeah, hashtag WWRHD and profit sharing. I don't know if you do this or not, Vinny, but that's why we have the Operation Secret Santa campaign in place, and why we've been so much really committed to promoting it over the past number of years. Basically, half of everything that we have come in goes back to the grassroots. We set it aside and see that it makes its way into the hands and wallets, bank account, or what have you, of people like John Ford, UFO political prisoner John Ford. James Heydrich is another very colorful character who has served out his prison sentence, and because California is one of these states that has preventative detention policies in place, that they can take people after they have done their time behind bars, and then put them in another facility, basically saying, no, because of something we think you might do to somebody at some point, somehow, somewhere, maybe, perhaps, kind of deal. And he's trying to do what he can to get the hell out, of to find himself back in as a member of what used to be a semi-free world at least, and I guess as time goes on here, it's looking more and more like we are sliding if things don't change, and they really double down and decide to milk this thing for all it's worth, this phony corona nonsense. And there's so many different coronaviruses, of course, too. This one being the dreaded number 19. That I just we'll see if things manage to take a turn for the positive here. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and we can bring about an economic reset, perhaps. So I've long dedicated myself to what is known as apocalyptimism, and I am you're the narcissistic type, I guess, and I'll give you credit. At least you're honest about it. That's wonderful, and it seems like you have a lot of fun with it too. But
just remember, everybody is narcissistic to some degree. If they believe they're not, they're either retarded or lying.
Well, there you go. Myself, a self-confessed apocalyptimist. Now, but I will take exception somewhat to what you just put out there, and I think this is a good indication or demonstration of how this works. But you're more of an exhibitionist. Myself, on this end, where's Jaffe? I mean, you hear this guy talking, but you don't really ever see him a lot, do you? So myself, more of a voyeur. I'm somebody who watches, really, a spectator, and some of us remember that good old-fashioned 20th century principle, privacy, as it used to be known, and it's something that I like to think about often. And we take just a more retro kind of old school approach here as far as the format and style is concerned.
Speaking of that, we've just had another $2 super chat from On the Fence with Muzza, who says, thank you for welcoming all Discord members, your cult AWC hashtag.
He is great. That's one of the things that I had made a note of, actually. He is just an amazing
moderator.
Well, he's something, I tell you. He's been over on our channel for probably the last couple months almost now. And has been doing just a heck of a job. Really positive energy, very supportive, and just really great to have made his virtual acquaintance, and hopefully will over time be able to maintain and just build on the relationship. Maybe bring him on board at some point. Have you ever interviewed the guy? You ever talked to him?
Well, On the Fence with Muzza, I think, not sure if he's called in through the Discord or something like that, but
okay, all right. So, hey, listen, and that's the thing with what we have put together, as far as the show, Pirate Radio Podcast, the flagship to the wider WPRPN.com network. The focus is on the grassroots, the up and coming talent, voices, personalities, people who are undiscovered, who have yet really to have had a chance to have their voices heard. We have the platform, and with that being the case, over the past, this is our 5th year now, so we just continue to welcome these kind of underground, largely, not sometimes quite unknown and obscure personalities, but at least to give whoever it is a chance to better get their name and stories out there, their particular way of seeing the world, of course. And I've long realized and been fascinated, of course, with how it is that we've all got a story or two to share with the world. And so that's, 3 weeks out of the month, that's what we focus on every Friday night. Of course, that's Saturdays here in Asia, New Zealand, Oz, and so forth. But once a month, we kind of look to see if we can maybe bring on board a more, better known, well-established name, if possible, a higher profile type character. and the other 3 weeks is left open to just interesting, colorful characters who have yet to have had a chance to get on anybody's show, really. So that's in line, of course, very much what the Robin Hood spirit, I think, encapsulates, represents. It's kind of to the heart of things, along with the profit, and money, the redistribution of the loot and booty as well too. Let's not forget. But hey, listen, one of the things I wanted to ask you about this whole Corona business is, have you heard about the Harvard University angle? This Lieber professor character who was arrested by the FBI along with the 2 Chinese nationals.
Nah.
Oh dear God! Breaking news. I mean, you talk about an angle here. Oh dear God! Somebody send this man a link. Duck, go. Harvard. You could do it yourself there from your end if you want, Vinny. Harvard, or we can both do it, I suppose. Lieber, and it's interesting to note, a not so very nice Jewish man, as I like to say. Harvey Weinstein, another not so very nice Jewish man. There are, lots of nice Jewish people, of course, but these are not. Is
this the one where he's accused of hiding ties to China?
Yes, correct. The 1,000 Talents program. It's incredible the way that most media is completely ignoring it. You, of course, I'm sure would happily report on this, and now that we've presented it to you, whoa! I mean, look out. So, as far as what's going, it's a potential smoking gun, really, as to all these theories as to what has.
You know what it seems like to me?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 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 boom. Beat those war drums.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what's going to happen after this? What happens after every massive economic collapse throughout the 20th century? Oh, giant wars, huh? Oh, okay, that'll get everybody back and employed, building weapons and stuff like that, so they can send their young, best and brightest off to kill other people. But now we don't even have to do that because we've got Predator drones. All right, so you can just sit at home with your Xbox controller. Killing them Chinese, mate. It's gonna be a lot of fun, unless, of course, the reason why China has so much technology and so much military and so much gold and things like that is because they were given it to act like a big boogeyman that they can threaten the world with. The globalists can, and then everybody turns on China, and then boom, we've got a nice, beautiful World War III going on. And just like after World War I, when they created the League of Nations, just like after World War II, when they created the United Nations, after World War III, they're going to create the one world government, because most of the world's government will be destroyed. All right, and nobody will be able to resist them, and they'll confiscate all the weapons and militaries off of all of opposing governments and things like that, so that you'll have one permanent military high-tech dictatorship till the end of time. And you're like, well, but how will that work? Won't people rebel and things like that? Yes, they will, and then they'll immediately get killed. Whatever they're trying to do, whatever they're trying to rush out, these people have thought of damn near everything that we could possibly think of. And so, I like to use the tortoise and the hare analogy. Humanity is the hare. We thought we were well ahead of the curve, we're fine and all that kind of stuff. We think we can win this race against the globalists. So we took a nap for about 10,000 frickin' years under a tree. And we figure, it's 10,000 years, bro. That tortoise is never going to get near the finish line. But now it's very near the finish line, and we're waking up just now to this fact, like this New World Order takeover that we're experiencing right now. We're under martial law. That's military dictatorship. Hello, and we've got to run as fast as we can and see if we can get to that finish line first. It is all go now.
It is going to be interesting to see where things ultimately lead here. How, as far as the end game is concerned, or just what we see unfolding over the next couple weeks, and and months. My personal take, no expert, of course, but my sense after watching the news and both in the mainstream sense of the word as well as what alternative outlets have to offer, is that we're gonna have this corona virus around for maybe the next month or so. Korea, the numbers have been on the decline here. It was only because of that whack job Shincheonji cult, which you might have heard about, that things really took off in a big way. It was quite concerning and very dramatic to begin with. And but since that time, proper measures have been taken as far as people, I guess, social responsibility, as you say, washing hands. I'm not sure. There's wearing masks and so forth.
Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you before you had stopped having to be reminded to wash your hands? Because it's been a long time for me since I've had to be reminded.
Well, the problem is with Koreans, unfortunately, a lot of them, they're not even taught to cover up when they cough or sneeze. So that's something that I work with all my kids, with my ELF job here. It's been around 18 tours of duty now. So you can look at that in I guess, two different senses of the word, double entendre, duty. But yeah, that's one of the issues for sure, and constantly just reminding them over the years to put your hand over your mouth, turn your head, and then, you might want to think about going to wash your hands. So for me, this has been nothing new, but the Koreans, unfortunately, it's a problem where they're not conscious or aware in this.
Amos 777 has just given us $2 He says, "Wouldn't you love a time machine?"
What for? To go forward? To go back? I mean, to get the hell off this planet? I don't know. Where would he want to go? No idea.
I don't know. Me personally, where are you? I'm right here. What time is it? It's right now. Is there a threat coming to kill me in the next 60 seconds? No. Take a deep breath. And you're back in the room.
I love it.
All right?
Yeah.
Stop stressing about things that aren't right in front of you. Is the ideal. The police state is right in front of you right now. Martial law, that's right in front of you. Destruction of all the businesses and things like that, that's right in front of us. We've got to hustle.
Kind of economic terrorism, really. I guess you could look at that in that context.
Well, it's actually technically just terrorism par excellence. The definition of terrorism is a system of government that terrorizes its citizens into going along with its agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every single government we've got pretty much qualifies as a terrorist government then, under that little manifesto. So, we are part of a terrorist cult called government. All right? The very idea that I can give somebody a right that I do not possess is tyranny. It's slavery.
Yeah, surrender your rights. That's right. The God-given... If some people would look at, God-given natural rights.
Phrase, God-given for a second. It was outlined in Totalitaria by Ian Wishart, a New Zealand author, and I think I've done the first 5 chapters of it as an audiobook. And the reason why God is mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, that kind of thing, is not for spiritual or religious reasons. It's for legal reasons, okay? So let's say, for example, you're a man and you're trying to put away a law that is made by God. Do you have that authority? No, you don't, all right? So that's why they say God-given gifts and talents so that no man can pass a law to take them away.
Isn't that something? So definitely worth reflecting upon. And, of course, as just what came up in the conversation yesterday, actually, in the Galactic Perspective show. Give a bit of a shout out to Tommy Shutter and the project he has put together via his Free Cosmos channel with this Galactic Perspectives project. that admiralty law, basically naval admiralty law, which I'm sure you've investigated, studied quite extensively, the straw man fallacy, and this whole business, it's got to be in capital letters now, birth certificates and so on and so forth. That, once again, he himself yesterday, as I recall, quite dismissive of the whole matter. But I do, most certainly think there's something to that. I avoid paperwork of any sort wherever I possibly can. There's no doubt about that. And as far as wearing masks out in public is concerned here with this current, Corona business, it's just, no bloody way. Like I'm done. I didn't wear masks out in public, only in a couple shopping malls actually, where I entered into a few weeks back. I thought, well, I'm not really too clear on what's going on here, so who the hell knows what the deal is exactly. And when I was in the shopping centers, I was sure to wear a mask before I made my way up to the second floor, and I had to attend a class or two there. But it's a kind of, every time the wife goes out, I ask her, are you wearing your mask again? I mean, it's a beautiful day. We got the sunshine, of course. Spring weather is just glorious. And that's one of the things that has been talked about as well, too, that it's exactly what you need to fight the Corona 19 virus is a lot of sunshine. Definitely quite helpful. And saunas, too, apparently. So, but what more can you say? Here's an issue, and I'm guessing that you've thought about this a little bit. These numbers are they're having just a field day. Korea's doing okay, I think, more or less. They're not artificially or excessively inflating the numbers. I think they're a little more conscientious and conservative. It's my impression, at least, than the U.S. and places such as, maybe the UK or Europe. But the way that these cases are, being registered and tallied, have you you've heard a thing or two about that? The way that they're basically cooking the books and overly, artificially inflating the numbers. Is that not the case?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the a man gets shot, then he runs into a burning building, he inhales smoke, and then an air conditioning unit falls on him. What killed him? All right. So if somebody's got COVID-19 and they've got heart problems and liver damage and cancer and they die, what killed them?
Well, they're saying it's the COVID. It's a COVID-19 is how they're
governments. Yeah, it's the COVID-19, obviously, right? So there you go. You've got a whole bunch of people, and the median age of people dying in Italy, statistically, is 78. The life expectancy of somebody in Italy is 82. So this isn't exactly the biggest crisis we could possibly imagine, and yet it's being treated as such, isn't it? In New Zealand, we had 500 cases and one death, a 78-year-old woman, interestingly enough, who, of course, had other health complications. So, the lockdown is part of a plan. Everybody says, oh, it's so stupid. A lot of people are saying, oh, maybe they haven't thought this through. They have thought it through. They're doing it all deliberately because they directly benefit from it. Who owns all the supermarkets? Who owns all of the media? Who owns all of these big, massive delivery companies? Who owns all the banks? They're not being shut down. They're not losing money. They're basically taking over now, while everybody else is forcibly locked down under martial law. Okay? It's a free-for-all out there.
Has New Zealand seen the same sort of corporate welfare style bailouts that what we recently witnessed via Washington?
we've got 4 million people versus 400 million people, okay? And I think it was 2 billion or something. I forget what. It was just a ridiculous amount of money. So just basically bailouts. Again, are they asking for any shares in these companies? I have serious doubts about that. So Agenda 21 is about essentially ending private property and that kind of thing, so that everything is public-private partnerships under the UN and the global government, and that's essentially going to be the future unless we stop this. So, mobilize and get out and do something is my advice to people. Now, what do I do? What do I do? Have you got a community garden? No, you don't. You might want to think about starting one. Do you have a community complementary currency that you work in your shops and things like that in your local area? You don't. You might want to think about doing that. Do you have a weekly meetup for the people on your street to discuss the issues and things like that? You might want to think about doing that. You see, all of the things that government has been doing for us this entire time, we now have to do for ourselves. We have to organize ourselves. We have to feed ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves and other people, that kind of thing. So, make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Okay? If we lose here and now, if we fall forever, and there will never be another, revolution to overthrow this one world government. They've got too much technology. They've been planning it and putting it in place slowly for too long. Once it's in, it's a perfect technocratic control grid that people won't even be able to think about getting out about in a very literal way. Even 5G frequencies are embedded with all these codes, essentially. So they figured out during Operation MK Ultra, they had a bunch of people and they would put electrodes into pretty much every part of their brain, and they would turn a frequency up, and the subject would go, "Oh my God, I'm so frightened, I'm gonna die!" And they go, "Okay, that one's incredible terror and fear. What's number B do? You go, "Oh, I'm gonna kill everybody." And that one's rage and demon possession. And what's this one do? And they've just mapped out all of these little frequencies that your brain does, right, in order to send you into any state that they want by simply pumping out that frequency. And 5G can pump out any of those frequencies. Okay? You want a riot?
That's not true.
Do you want a riot to stop? Do you want people to have like LRAD weapons, whereby they have a fiery sensation on their skin, that kind of thing? 5G can do it, and Mark Steele in the UK used to design weapons like this. In fact, they've basically stolen his design for this weapon, and he's been trying to warn people about this. So that's how the slave grid is going to be maintained in place. You won't need troops on the streets and things like that if you can disable human beings electronically, remotely, via AI.
Right. That's full spectrum dominance
it can't be done. It can't
Joe,
be done.
yeah, Pirate Joe,
Okay,
Professor Joe, too much loading running through your veins right now.
I'm just saying.
I know. Yeah, but
5G cannot penetrate the human skin.
Yeah, hang on, right. Hang on, Joe. Just hang on. You're going to get muted, Joe. Hang on. Okay, we had to mute him. We will bring him back into the conversation, Vinny. He's got, like I said, he's a very capable speaker, very bright, and he comes at things from a textbook scientific angle on most issues, which is great. But I think, he's wholly dedicated to the scientism cult, as it were, the cult of scientism, and which is very predominant these days. It's kind of like the number one reigning religion. It is my impression. Among one of the top religions of the world.
One of my most favorite phrases that scientists will say is that there's no evidence to suggest that. What they mean by that is that they've never bothered for 1 second to try and look for any evidence.
Okay.
Therefore, there's no evidence. Okay.
Well,
I love that.
Okay, Vinny. So we could bring. Actually, I'm open to. This is kind of a spontaneous sort of. This is one of the we have Joe here just because he's a longtime crew member, and he's often proves himself to be a very colorful personality with a lot to offer. So if you're willing, we can bring him into the conversation for the next couple minutes, and the two of you, I can kind of moderate a little back and forth, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Pirate Joe, if you can, I think you can unmute yourself. There you go. Have at it, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah,
there you go. Let's hear the
5G frequencies from 27 gigahertz to about 70 gigahertz.
2.4 to 64 gigahertz. Yeah.
Well, but the actual frequencies he'll be using on the towers are tuned to the antennas, which are basically centered around 30 to 32 gigahertz. They can't penetrate your skin, the millimeter wave.
Yeah, I know. This is called non-ionizing radiation.
Non-ionizing radiation, okay?
Which studies on that it affects the interstitium, the cells underneath your skin, and so
it can't get under your skin. It cannot get under your skin at the power levels that they're using.
How about 10G? How about 10G, Joe? Joe? 10G?
The one point you brought up, that there is a device, all right, and it's mounted in a tank with a parabolic antenna used to disturb crowds. That runs at 103 gigahertz, okay, which is way above 5G and way above any kind of power level that you would see on an antenna, okay, where the operator actually has to get inside of basically a tank, okay, point the antenna, okay, and you get a slight tingling or burning sensation on your skin and your eyes, okay? And that's
right. As opposed to crowd control.
Right, as a crowd control. That's got 225 kilowatt, 25,000 watt generators, two of them, okay, feeding in-phase and quadrature signals to the antenna, and that has to be pointed at a crowd. With 5G, the waves bounce off your skin. You can't sense it. It's impossible for it to penetrate your skin, to activate anything inside of you. Okay.
Okay, Joe. How about voice to skull? Joe. Joe, hang on.
Basically, what we're talking about here is a weapon system. Okay, now you're using millimeter waves. Millimeter waves haven't been used before, so this is not just like going from 3G to 4G or something like this. This is 4G to like, holy crap, G. And
carries more data. It's a Nyquist. You can carry.
Please finish the sentence, motherfucker. Okay, so have you been any long-term studies about the effects of 5G on a human being?
Let's check out the pause study. There's thousands of studies. There's studies that try to prove that it's damaging. Where they put 400 watts pulsed at 18 times a second over rats, and tried to induce brain tumors and tried to kill mold spores, and they couldn't do it. Okay, so even the studies that were there trying to prove that 5G is dangerous couldn't do it. Okay.
So
talking about apples and oranges.
Joe. Okay, Joe. That's good, Joe. Hang on. Let Vinny respond.
Okay, so that experiment that you talk about, who did that experiment? Who funded it?
Politicization of science.
That was funded by, I don't have my notes in front of me, but it's called a PAWS, pause study. Okay. And what they did was they took rats.
No, who funded it? So, okay. So you're citing a study who you don't know where it came from or who funded it, and you don't have your notes in front of you.
List of these
if
things.
I may finish a motherfucking sentence, you old piece of shit. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, man. In fact, I just laid an insult out, and I've lost the debate immediately after doing that, and I apologize. It's not respectful, and I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm used to it.
It's okay.
Okay. I hope you are. Now, the thing about it is when we're talking about 5G, because it hasn't been tested long-term on people, we don't know what the effects are going to be. Now, there could be, theoretically, a whole bunch of studies that are financed by the industry who wants to roll out all this 5G, and we all know what industry-funded findings find. They find exactly what the industry is funding them to find, no more, no less. So even if there were studies, then I would act under the assumption that they're funded by the industry and are absolute BS, designed to placate the public into basically accepting 5G and not worrying about it. So that's my concern about it, is because there has been no long-term testing, and the only testing we've had is short-term from the industry itself that hopes to be regulated. There's a clear conflict of interest there, and that arouses my suspicions. If it doesn't arouse your suspicion at all, then you might want to think about becoming a conspiracy theorist. A conspiracy theorist is a person who believes, absolutely believes, and cannot be convinced otherwise, that powerful people who have a lot of influence are using their power to maintain or grow that influence.
I have no doubt about that, all right? I have no doubt that people with power are trying to impose that power on others, okay? But then they can't do it. First of all, it's been around since 2005, all right? And it's been studied since 2005. The military has used it regularly, all right, in battlefield communications. All right, it's only now becoming ready for use in because there's been some developments in microcircuit technology, waveguides, antennas, and materials, and so forth, where they want to use it to carry large volumes of information. All right, but in the bandwidth that they're capable of adjusting to, and the power levels that they can crank it up to, all right, the power diminishes as the inverse cube of distance from the antenna.
Which is why they're going. You're right. You're right there.
Right, and, 1 meter from the antenna, you're getting 1/100th the dose. At 10 meters, you're getting 1/1000th. All right.
Exactly.
At
and if
100 meters, you're getting 1/10,000th.
Right, and if I may, that's why they're going to have those transmitters everywhere, like every 50 meters or something like that, so you can't ever get away from them. Now, and you're right before when you said about how most people can't feel this, because only about 3% of people are what's qualified as electrosensitive. I was sitting next to a woman in a restaurant after a 5G meeting at the council, and I was uploading the video of it, and she couldn't sit next to me because she was too sensitive. She's starting to get headaches just from my phone uploading right next to her. Now, an interesting finding was that they tested people's blood and irradiated it, with these Wi-Fi signals, things off of smart meters, that kind of thing. And they found that the people who were electrosensitive, their cells would react to the signals. But the people who weren't electrosensitive, their cells reacted to the signals exactly the same way as those people who were electrosensitive. And this is damaging DNA, it's damaging your brain, it can cause nosebleeds, and that nosebleeding that's occurring when people are like sleeping in their bed next to a 5G transmitter, for example, on the wall, they'll actually have their brain inside them melting because of the rads that it's being subjected to, and it's literally pouring out of their nose. Cancer is up massively, and this is a big concern because in New Zealand we've got a 1-in-1 cancer rate. Now, the World Health Organization has classified cell phones, just cell phones themselves, as a possible Class B carcinogen. So even when we go down to stuff that's weaker than 5G, it's still causing cancer, even according to mainstream sources. And because 5G, again, just to reiterate, hasn't been thoroughly tested yet, and they're rolling it out while we're locked down and cannot stop the rollout, again, I'm very suspicious.
It's very concerning with the 5G. And but Joe actually he takes a different stance on cellular technology, cell phones.
Yeah,
but let's
regular
remind
cell
Joe, you got to put a sock in it, man, or someone's gonna.
Right.
It's a sock or a dick. It's your choice, man. So now it's just a little bit of a sock, just a sock. So well, but cellular technology, yeah, he takes a different stance, and he'll be able to briefly, hopefully, unpack that for you here in just a moment. But you're so right, Vinny. I couldn't agree any more that the testing, as with the cellular technology, this is scalar technology, which goes right back to Tesla, from what I understand. But it was launched as a military weapon. If I could be, mistaken there, but that is my understanding of things, military grade weapon and technology. So that just in itself, I mean, that's just, to ignore that is, I don't know why people would even, once that information was presented to them, they're aware of this, why they would do that, take that approach. So, but Joe, why don't you talk a little bit about your position on cell phone technology, and then we can just transition back to Vinny, and we gotta we're gonna be winding things down here in just the next 15-20 minutes tops, really.
Okay.
So and then heading back to heading to the after show as well too, potentially either with Vinny or not. But I don't know, Mr. Eastwood, if you're aware of that. That's the way we kind of do things.
Well, my listeners have been waiting for the Discord chat to start up for when we're ready.
Oh, you're talking about the after show, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
I've got Discord and everything too.
Hey, that's great. Oh, it sounds.
And we can continue to live stream
but
and that kind of thing.
It's premium archived content as well too. It's kind of bootleg where you're going to stream from your end, I guess, but we're going to shut ours down here. That's the way we do things. But you feel free to do to approach the situation as you so choose. Just in closing, Joe, cellular technology, you take a different position, correct?
Okay. The standard cellular technology operates in two basic frequency ranges, somewhere a little above 900 megahertz and a little above 1.8 gigahertz or 1800 megahertz. All right. The second one is in the garbage band. It's the same as microwave ovens. Okay, you have a microwave oven. You have a magnetron tube, a waveguide, and a resonant cavity. And you disrupt the resonant cavity, the water molecules rub against each other. They heat up. Okay, and that's basically what's happening with regular cell phones. All right. Anybody that spends more than an hour a day on a regular cell phone, they're being exposed to this, and some of their cells inside their body could be getting damaged because of this. Okay, at the cellular level. All right, not a lot, but enough to be statistically significant. When you go to 5G, all right, the power levels actually are dropped down. All right, because it's very directional. It carries a lot of data. All right. The only reason it's called a battlefield weapon is because it was used for communications. It was never used for disrupting anything or because they tried. Believe me, it wasn't for lack of trying. I'm not disagreeing with you there. They really tried, okay? And they had to go up above 100 gigahertz, all right? And at power levels that you would never, ever use, out in the open, okay? So all I'm saying is if it can't penetrate your skin.
Now, what's the strength there? You said how many gigahertz is the strength of 5G?
All right, it's average around 32, 33 gigahertz.
Okay, it's actually 60. It's actually 60, so either you don't know what you're talking about or you're a liar.
No. It can be tuned up to 60, down to 27. They found optimal use. Okay, around 32, 33 gigahertz, all right? You can double that, all right? You can double that and then some, and you're still not going to be able to penetrate the human skin at the power levels. They're set at 250 watts. They can transmit up to 400 watts of power, okay?
Okay.
Compared to the dispersing weapons, which are 25,000 watts and above. Okay, 25,000 watts, and that's directional. That's aimed at people, all right, at crowds and so forth. It does not disrupt anything beyond the top layer of your skin. The waves just roll off.
Okay. Let's.
Now, can I jump in here? Because the New Zealand legislation on this is very, very clear that you're allowed up to 1 million microwatts, and it's considered safe. The logic behind the New Zealand legislation's move there was to say that if something doesn't burn you or cook you immediately, then it's safe. Safe, as in you should never question it. Now, it says on the warning labels of cell phones themselves, you don't put within 10 centimeters of your body, which means you can't use cell phones if you follow their recommendations. And there was a microwave experiment in Russia, I believe, when Finland was under the Iron Curtain. Russia experimented on some of their students there with microwave food. They were eating 3 microwave meals per day. They called off the experiment on day 10 because every single one of the test subjects started to develop adult onset leukemia as a result of eating the microwave food. Now, this is what happens when you rub a cell or you heat up a cell with these frequencies. Essentially, sometimes they can rupture, and that frags the DNA, and then that fragged DNA will continue circulating around the system, but it'll dislodge somewhere, and that's what causes cancer, essentially. Irregularities in the blood being split apart, the DNA going out of control. Now, cancer would grow forever if it didn't kill the host, and I believe that there's something to be said that although we're bathed in all of these cancer-causing electromagnetic radiation signals, even as we speak, with dirty electricity coming out of Paul Waddell from safespace.net.nz has done some amazing presentations on the dangers of this just in general, but 5G is another step up. Now, although you say that the energy levels seem to be very low, that's not the concern. The concern is that the delivery of that energy via millimeter waves, again, hasn't been tested, and it's looking like it will shred DNA. Usually it just gets deformed, and then you get cancer later, but this one looks like it'll shred DNA, and it'll cause cancer much, much quicker, or at least that's one of the possibilities. The other possible things of electromagnetic distortion and things like that, it can affect the human mind. It can affect your concentration. It can make you depressed, anxious, things of that nature. And this is without anybody even tuning a knob trying to weaponize it. These things, I believe, are weapons in general, but they're not like focused weapons that you can just like, let's kill that guy, that kind of thing. Although scalar weaponry can do that, you can target somebody with a frequency that will stop their heart from working, and it doesn't matter where they are. They could be 5 miles underground. If you've got the right frequency to turn off that person's heart, you can do it. So again, this is some very, very concerning stuff, and mad science going even madder than we could have possibly imagined.
Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, I believe, is the title of the famous the PDF document that's been making the rounds via the interwebs for the past number of years. And I think this is a great example of exactly that. I
wasn't prepared for this debate, by the way. I don't have my notes here.
Oh, yeah. Vinny, I'm kind of, in some ways, apologetic. At the same time, I feel the need to let Joe have his say because he does bring... it's a voice of I wouldn't say reason necessarily, but he has he
voice of opposition, the devil's advocate.
Yeah. Which is you gotta have that sort of thing. So, in all fairness, but how about this? The voice to skull technology, which is another area that I believe Joe is willing to say that it definitely does. It's a real thing. So I mean, you combine voice to skull, combined voice to skull with either like cellular or the 5G type technology as a package, sort of delivering it to the intended target. And I mean, God only knows, some pretty terrible stuff. The thing that I really get a kick out of is the way that over the years, so many people have been institutionalized, saying the government is putting voices in my head, or they have a tooth, a filling that is picking up radio frequencies, and they don't understand what's going on, so they have to have it removed. And it's a pretty real thing where they are hearing those voices in their heads because of that.
Corroded dissimilar metals, and they can pick up high power AM transmitters. They're running for like 50 megawatts and stuff like that. But if you really want to do damage to somebody, you don't need 5G. Okay. You really don't. Okay, you need 2 audio frequencies that are offset by between 5 and 7 cycles per second, and then you modulate that with a very low frequency, and it keeps them awake. Okay, because they can't go from an alpha state into a regular sleep state, into delta, slow wave delta sleep. All right, so all you need is 2 frequencies that are just at the edge of the hearing range. All right. It's called infrasound, by the way. Okay, and I did work on some of that stuff, and it works. All right, you keep somebody awake long enough, or you keep waking them up before they're completing a REM cycle or going into a REM cycle. After 6 or 7 days, they go insane. It's that simple.
Sure. Right? Hey,
but that has nothing to do with 5G. That's a
all
much lower frequency. It's cheaper. It's easier to do. Why would you want to use 5G?
Great,
like that.
Thanks, Joe. Great point. And we'll talk to you later. Back to the sick bay and mixing your potions and remedies. Try not to sample too much of the wares along the way. Hopefully.
Ether.
Yeah, exactly.
Ether and laudanum.
Yeah, there you go. That's you betcha. So, once again, Vinny, I just find it really striking the way that for years so many people have been institutionalized, saying that the government is putting voices in my head, and then they, it's like, you're schizophrenic, obviously, so we'll put you need to be institutionalized, medicated, treated. So on and so forth. And as it turns out, they're actually right. How many of these people were correct, but it's not something that the wider world is supposed to know about for some reason. On top of that, were you aware, or did you pick up on the stories that came out over the past year or two regarding how now the technology is in place? It's out there and in the hands of a select few who are able to actually, and Wi-Fi, it's one of those things as well. There's stories all over the interweb, and it's not just via these conspiracy sites either necessarily, that they can actually scan your house and take a look at what's going on, who's moving around, where you are, what you're up to, and nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody's none the wiser. But dreams, right, Vinny, dreams. What I was going to talk about was dreams. Planting, like he was talking about the sleep cycle, REM and so forth, but planting, they can actually program you to have certain types of dreams. Are you up to speed on that, or did you hear of that at all?
Yeah, well, slightly. I mean, the thing is, you've got that, what were you talking about, voice-to-skull technology,
right, yes.
or something of that nature.
Correct.
So if they can do that, then it's certainly not outside the realms of possibility that they could just beam stuff into your head while you're sleeping, and that would influence your dreams.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's right. Exactly.
Well, the thing is, we're heading into technocracy, okay? And the thing about 5G is that the health aspect is only one little aspect of it, okay? Only one little aspect of it. So it can theoretically affect your health. It can theoretically affect your mind, but that's not the real point of it. We know smart meters and Wi-Fi and all of that kind of stuff make people sick, and it does happen all the time. But that's not the exact point of it. The point of it is control, okay? If you've got a smart meter on your home, somebody can dial in and see what appliances you're using. They can see a long spreadsheet of when you use your appliances. They know when you're home. They know how many people are home. And they're going to connect all of those smart appliances to the grid as well. So your fridge will be spying on you. Your toaster will be spying on you. Okay? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's available tonight? Right?
They already are. I mean, they will be. I mean, it's not. It's already happening now. It's been taking place for some time. God only knows how long. The CIA, I think it was Brennan, the head of the American CIA, came out just last year, as I recall, and maybe.
But we're talking about surveillance here. I'm talking about real-time control. Because not only can they see all that stuff with your smart meters, they could turn it off if they wanted to.
Sure.
Okay?
Well, and the thing is, Vinny, hey, smart technology. Smart for who? That's my question. Smart for who? Who's really, and it's people, and it's an appeal to people's narcissistic tendencies as well, too.
I'm so smart.
Yes, yeah.
There was a study actually done in the United States by a major university, and it asked people, do they think they're of average intelligence, above average intelligence, or below average intelligence? Only 4% of people believe that they're below average intelligence. Okay, now that's a 50% off the scale there kind of thing, right? And it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. All right, they had two groups of people sitting down in a lab, and one of them was a group of scientists who thought they knew everything, and one of them was a group of dumbasses who didn't know shit. All right, so they gave them a questionnaire, and the scientists answered it, and they didn't know as much as they thought they did. And the people who didn't know anything, they answered the questioner, and they thought they knew a lot more than they actually did, which means that regardless of who you are, you think you're smarter than you are.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine. So is the fool who thinks himself the wise man, and the wise man who, I guess, knows he's the fool kind of deal. So,
or as John Cleese said, you have to be reasonably intelligent in order to figure out that you're not that bright.
Yeah, exactly. To figure out exactly how stupid you are. Correct. That's my default position, basically, to tell you and the rest of the listeners out there the truth, that I look at myself as being, frankly, just average intelligence, if that, quite honestly. And it just so happens that I'm here doing what I am, hosting this show and working to reach out and connect with people around the world. You mentioned earlier about being bored and kind of the sense of loneliness.
I didn't say bored.
Wow. Okay.
I just said lonely.
Lonely. Okay. There you go. I guess. It's the time twice a week. Our news segment on Tuesday nights. This Friday nights here, of course, this is Wednesdays and Saturdays in Asia, yes, during the early afternoon. But it's the one or two times each week I get a chance to actually reach out and talk to people around the world, have a conversation where I would otherwise simply be either at home, maybe reading a book or playing guitar, or having to interact and engage with Koreans, as I typically do, over the course of the rest of my my daily routine. So let me just give a quick shout out to the number of people who have joined us here. Carol Sloan she's really letting loose there on Facebook right now. Coco Park had joined us as well too. A number of people dropping in. Zane Ivy. Who else did we have there? Augie Nost. Let's see. Just a whole handful. So thanks everybody who did drop by. You're always encouraged to leave your comments, of course. Over on the Restream chat, we had actually, I think it was living in Korea, Jack Glowacki, who we see from time to time. That's great. Thanks for dropping in, Jack. Always look forward to your input. Very much on the ball. And we'll talk about this just in a second as we wind things down here, Vinny. But this business, just put this aside for the time being. Woke versus red-pilled, okay? Let's just and then those two kind of ideas or concepts as they were. Just remember I mentioned that to you. But Joe Emanon, Dana Shiver, Reverend Jim, who was helping to, he's one of our underground syndicators, as it were. We've also got, let's not forget, Daryl out of the Global Enlightenment Network, who typically, he's been picking up our show as of late as well, too. Let's not forget, and Angel Espino, PSN-Radio, really doing a great job there, helping us out wherever he can. So, we really appreciate the support and look forward to what the future has to bring. Once again, taking that apocalyptimist approach to things. That I don't see the other alternatives are not all that appealing, frankly. So, we're here to promote, because really, Vinny, we have to do what we can in the face of all of the turmoil, all of the order out of chaos, as is that's their MO, as I think we're quite well aware. That we do our best to promote this positive, cosmic, and today, of course, very much corona busting, synergetic type energy. So go ahead.
Speaking of energy, Mer Eagle has just given us $5 New Zealand just like that in the super chat. Thank you, brother. For anybody else who's wondering how you can super chat and what have you, there is a link that I'm going to be popping into the chat room of the video right now, where you can go to the super chat channel. So go watch out for that. And if you super chat in, we'll answer your questions on air. That's the deal.
Dana Shiver, Free Cosmos, On the Fence with Musa, join us here over on YouTube as well. So he's definitely a busy character, manages to make the rounds. Halidium Labs, hey, haven't seen actually him for a while, but saying that our two of his favorite hosts, that would be you and I guess, is what he's trying to communicate there. Vinny, and Pirate One Radio at Proton Mail. That's our PayPal contact, as well as just if you have any tips, breaking news, any show or guest ideas, be sure to contact us at Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com. Halidium Labs talking about how the smart meter is worse than any phone, and as I said earlier, this smart technology in your car, in your homes, at work, where have you, that I do what I can myself to it's not really a Luddite type approach so much as just not interested in participating or engaging, frankly, to they call them cultural trappings or technological trappings, and there's a reason for that. We should I think maybe reflect on that a little more, why that's the case. So I prefer myself not to be trapped by much at all if I can possibly manage. But that's, of course, Vinny, as you're well aware, where the coercive end of things tends to kick in, is that if they can't essentially, I guess, suck you in using, or entice you, I guess is the word, via the carrot approach, then out comes the stick. And the threatening nature of the beast, the Kraken, as we often refer to this particular entity here, via the Robin Hood, down in, as we are now, Skullport Harbor, turning back into this lovely, majestic, mystic bay. And we are going to be heading on down to visit one of the local resident watering holes. The scurvy dog is one, of course, the howling wolf, or the mossy wench. Of course, Joe's favorite is, what is it? Ye Old Log In, I guess, that's his big
old log in
venue of choice.
Yeah, the old log in.
Yeah.
Because if you get lost, you can always tap on somebody's window and say, "Hey, pal, how far is the old log in?"
All right. Well, I guess if that works, then it's something that you should, definitely take Pirate Joe's advice and do exactly that. So, Benny Mac, Exposed Scumbaggery. Thanks for dropping by. Benny Mac. Dana Shiver, once again, one of our biggest supporters as of late. She's joined us here out of California quite recently, as a matter of fact, pretty much from right out of the blue. So it's great that she is showing her support over on Patreon and through PayPal as well, too. So, and if people can't afford to do that, if it's not within their means, especially during these currently trying times, just help to share the links, folks. Comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. That's what helps little channels such as ours grow, as does the very thing that Vinny has so kindly done here again this week. We don't find too many of the larger, more well-established channels or entities, as it were, interested in having us drop by. And I know that you really go out of your way to do exactly that in a similar manner as to what we do. Is that not the case, Vinny? You look around just pretty much for interesting people to talk to, correct?
No.
Oh.
I don't do any looking. I don't do any investigating.
Okay.
My listeners do it all for me. They say, hey, Vinny, this guy's doing this kind of thing. Watch this or whatever. Get him on the show. And I'm like, all right. That kind of thing. So I go into every interview not knowing who I'm talking to or what we're going to be talking about. And that's why it's so much fun.
Well, that's kind of like the Larry King approach. I'm not sure if Art Bell, if that's the way he operated back in the day or not. But how did you first hear about us anyways?
You contacted me asking me to come on your show, I think.
Okay, yeah, because we never invite ourselves onto other people's shows. It's just, for me, a little kind of, I find the whole thing uncomfortable, frankly, and a little too much. That if people are willing to drop by, whoever they are, and be a part of what we have to offer here, then great. So. Okay, well, I think
the way I do things. Sorry to interrupt it.
Go ahead.
But the way I do things, you're on my show right now. You're being simulcast to the same thing as everything else, and I believe we're even simulcasting this on American Freedom Radio as well. So congratulations. I hope you've enjoyed your promotion.
WPRPN.com. That is right. So there we go. We'll have to do this all over again at some point down the road. In the meantime, yeah, let's head on out of here, unless there's anything more that you'd like to share with our listeners.
We're cranking the Discord, aren't we?
That is the plan, and I guess it's pretty much it's an open door affair, by and large. Is it
now,
not?
The question is, which chat is the actual voice one? Is it live stream, podcast, the Howling Wolf, Operation Secret Center, general chat, news? What? Well,
that's the thing, is that we hardly use Discord at all, to tell you the God's honest truth. It's mostly there as a backup means of connecting with people in the event that Skype crashes. So we'll work that out behind the scenes here, though. I wouldn't worry about that too much right now. We'll see what we can do, whether you invite us into your I guess we could try
into my Discord.
We could actually do a similar thing in the sense of, because you're going to be continuing the live stream, we're going to keep it archived and off the air as far as what we're doing here from our end is concerned. So we'll hook up here in just a minute or two behind the scenes. And I'm looking at something here. What is this that has popped up? Somebody has, my God, who is this woman here? She's popped up on, is that something, are you, wow, we got this lady here with big blue eyes and blonde hair, and she's suddenly cut into our feed for some reason. I'm not sure who's done this. Maybe it's one of our co-hosts that we brought on board, either Carol Sloan or Coco Park has done that. They've been able to kind of hijack what Facebook viewers are currently seeing. So, okay, nothing to get too worked up about. But thank you once again, Vinny. We're going to queue up our outro and speak to you again here shortly behind the scenes in Discord.
All right, cool, man. Just which link do I go in? I'm in the I'm in your room right now, but we could just run it off mine. I mean, I'll talk to my listeners on my one, and then as soon as you want me to come on your one, just give me a bell. Yeah, we'll take care of that here in just the shake of our little wooden legs. So on that note, just to remind listeners, of course, if you want to contact Vinny or drop by any of his social media links, of course, are all available down in the YouTube show description area. That's the way to do things. And I guess that's about it. Is there, Vinny, anything more? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show, the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes. And that's partly why we got you actually to join us here, Vinny. There's one item I did not actually lay out there for our listeners. This is really important. Did you hear, as a matter of fact, how this is just in the last 24 hours, the United Nations now, Bernie Sanders coming from out of the blue. He's 100% behind things here. I don't know how he managed to help bring this about, but everyone around the world now, every single citizen on the face of the earth, through the United Nations, with the help of Bernie Sanders, because he's all about free stuff, right? We're going to receive $10,000. As a matter of fact, that's how the story goes. That's been reported on, and so you can look forward to your check in the mail sometime soon. Congratulations. One can only hope. Actually, that's kind of. I don't think that maybe didn't land as well as I would hoped. It's a bit of an April Fool's joke, and that was that's his wooden leg. I was pulling your wooden leg, as I pulled Joe's wooden leg a little more successfully just a couple days ago. But in fact, that's even worse than one of your jokes, Vinny. So, geez, I don't think there's anything worse than my joke. Like, honestly, no, you're a gifted comedian, funny guy. They're just awful. Really? Mine, it's rarely that mine ever land, and it's a lot of, I don't really tell jokes. I just kind of, I shoot from the hip, man. It's just like spontaneous. Well, you're a pirate on the sea, so of course your jokes don't land. Exactly. There you go. All right. So on that note, just to remind listeners once again, WPRPN.com is the website you'll want to drop by and check out. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com is the email address. Thanks to everybody who did participate in this week's Friday night feature show and live stream. Of course, we did launch things here 12 p.m. noon out of the Tokyo and Seoul time zones. On behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair and all the rest of the crew here aboard the Robin Hood, until we meet again out on the high digital seas, I'm your host as always, show's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Tally-ho.
Aye now, there we be. Having carefully looked over each of our navigation panel instruments, checking every level, switch, dial, cable, knob, and pulley, by all accounts and indications, we indeed see it's time, once again, to drop anchor inside Mystic Bay. Draw an end to yet another week of World Pirate Radio Live. Remember, if you're looking for a little more animated online action, keep in mind we've likely got yet another great free-flowing Rogues Gallery after show coming up for the next hour in one of our more premium, exclusive, and remote digital underground online pirate hideaways. Also, if you yourself have a new, novel, intriguing, or otherwise underreported idea, unique individual, or pressing item in mind, be sure to either drop us a line directly over on WPRPN.com or fire us a quick email, via Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com. We're always open to exploring fresh creative suggestions, intriguing guest ideas, cutting-edge discussion topics, and captivating themes. Remember, WPRPN.com member site subdomain links are also always available. Great for artists, musicians, podcasters, bloggers, social media personalities, or pretty much just any old landlubber looking to boost their online visibility, presence, and reach. Basic personal profile accounts can be launched for just $60 per year. Staking your claim now helps not only strengthen you and the network, we're also looking out for the little guy. That's right, folks. As much as half of all WPRPN's profits are redirected right back into the hands of the people who really need it most. Community charity. After all, we are the Robin Hood. You can further embark on your own personal pirate journey by either liking, sharing, commenting on, subscribing to, or just following us via virtually any mainstream social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook, Gab, or Minds.com. So don't forget to become engaged. Until we meet again out on the high digital seas. I'm your host as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Tally-ho.